Welcome, everybody, to Flat Earth Nation. It is a Flat Earth Nation. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I said in the fastest way possible because I see my big brother Randy is here. And I forgot my phone. I'm going to put in an invite. I hope he has time because he's going to love this. Is going to be such a fun show. So much stuff going on there. So I hope he has a little time. I got crazy stuff that a lot of times maybe only someone like Randy or Tommy could help me out explaining how much weirdness is going on. So we'll see what he's going on. I want to welcome Randy G in the house. Hola, Randy G in the house. Going to be getting into everything from banking and even that a little bit more quantum physics stuff. Wonder what that was. Did you guys see that thing pop up and say like they're having trouble showing your feed or something? That was weird. Hi, Laura. Hola. Hey, Laura, say hi to Randy. How you doing, Randy?
I'm doing good.
This is going to be really, there's so many good topics since I finished up this afternoon. And I was just thinking, I went back upstairs to get my pen about 20 minutes ago because, I have to walk across the backyard and, those crawdads leave. Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want to go back and get my phone, but I was worried. I'm there like, I wonder if Randy's going to call. But I'm glad you did. But you're going to be.
Yeah, you made it easy for me.
Yeah, you're going to find out there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. So how you been?
Well, I wasn't feeling very well over the weekend. I worked today, and I'm feeling better than what I did.
Is that right? Was it the whole body aches and pains?
Kind of chills and sweats, and then a kind of a gruff voice, throat,
Wow.
and a little bit of a hack.
Man, oh man. Well, don't go to the hospital. From what I understand, you'll just get sicker if you go.
Hey, I just came from Florida, and my daughter's boyfriend came down with something, and then probably a week or two before we went to Florida, my nephew went down there. He came back. He tested for it, and he was positive. I don't need to test for it. I know how I feel.
Exactly. Well, let's go over. We'll give them. I'm going to give them a quick rundown here. You shout out if but this is what I am going to be striving to go over. I got this thing here, from 2010, introducing quantum superpositions. And I just think it's like qubit. Oh, that's crazy. That's that qubit stuff. And then that's way before the Q movement. And then this quantum entanglement. Like I said, there's not going to be any math because really what they call math is not real math. Doggone it, Randy, look at this.
In late 2017. We need to impose some kind of a penalty. Personally, I would like to spend as little in the military as possible while achieving the important national security goals that the country has and that the people expect from the country. After 4 straight failures, why does the Department of Defense struggle to pass an
audit? Well, anyway, surprise, surprise. The Pentagon has never passed an audit.
And so what was the steady progress then? Or how did they... You had a sentence prior to this one that...
Oh, yeah. They were making steady progress, but then they actually wanted answers. And so they just said, oh, well, we can't give you answers. So I guess we failed the audit. And this was their fourth time in a row doing that. Look, when you just.
So maybe they need, what they really need is another 9/11.
No.
When they misplaced, what,
But when you
2.3
look up,
trillion.
look, if you go, Pentagon fails audit, just put it in. It from 2018, 2017, because that's when they first passed a law and said, no, you have to do an audit. And they said, okay, but they just keep failing them.
I'm just saying, in 2001, the day before 9/11, oops, they misplaced 2.3 trillion. And then the next day, nobody talked about that.
Right. Well, because just because they admit that they, lost the money doesn't mean that they have to do anything about it. But you just see it, it's one fail after another. They're never going to come up with that money of the $3,000 hammers.
Yeah. It's not a for-profit company, so it doesn't matter.
So, and anyway, so after I thought it was just such a great show this morning, for some reason I started thinking about the Great Wall of India, and that led me to the walls of Benin. We'll get into the walls of Benin. Very interesting, kind of cool. I'll tease everybody with a picture there. Hi, everybody. I'm teasing you with this picture. And there's these other city walls that Africa, ancient Kano city walls, ancient defensive walls built to protect the inhabitants of the ancient city of. It's looks like you would say Kano, but believe it or not, that's pronounced potato. No, I'm just kidding. It says the wall was initially built in 1095. Okay, sure it was. You didn't add no 1,000 years or anything. We get it, right? So this is your Star Fort type city around what they say is the time of Christ. Here is where they basically, they'd be saying, come into the market. We've got your camels. We've got your figs. We've got your lace purple souls of men and slaves, whatever you got. Like a Bible reference. So we're just getting into what we've got to go over. Oh, we already went over this. You guys, we don't want to burn you out on the Theosophical Society. Oh, no. Hey, you want to know all you need to know about quantum physics to know that it's stupid? Wait for it. Yeah. Both at the same time. Wait a minute. Now I'm not into it.
It's like stereo.
And only 2 of the states appear randomly. Now, hold on. Try not to get too into the music. I know. Only measuring 1. This is only one of the few ways they can try to explain quantum physics because it's so stupid. So they get them alternating progressively between non-excited and excited. They pick a state. Rapid Rabi oscillations appear. The object is never being completed. It's in a thermal bath. Where's that one big sentence that says that? So the atom can really be in 2 states at once. Although when you look at it, it's only in the one state that you see it at when you looked at it. All the other ones just stop. And this is not me making fun of them. This is their own stuff, you know. It takes time for the superposition to disappear. It's called the discoherence time. And we'll get to more. It'll explain it, you know, better without that quantum superposition. That's their video. It's so stupid. The qubit state. Why all of a sudden? Just since remember how we used to take apart those maps from the Q map, which was like an awesome map, except it just left out flat Earth and the John Birch Society. But everything, basically, what was the Q map to me, Randy? And tell me if I forget anything. It was a way to say, hey, all you Republican voters, every conspiracy you heard about is true, except flat Earth and 9/11.
Yeah, I guess in a nutshell. So what's the year on this animation that you just displayed? That's been around a while, the animation?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was on YouTube.
Okay, well.
Let's see. 2019.
Okay.
So we're getting qubitted to death here. We'll go over some of that, Lord willing.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying you have to use animation because you can't do it for real.
Right.
So for what it's worth.
You can't just say you will go out to measure that tree and there's 1,000 different possibilities that the tree could be anywhere from dead to a sapling to almost dying of old age, but just whatever it shows up when you randomly get there, that's what it is for the rest of your experience. It could have been anything else, but now that you've seen it as the tree you've seen it, thus it remains. And here's their proof right here. You know, that's stupid.
It's in the formula, huh?
Right, yeah, it's stupid. It doesn't work. There was a time when that intimidated me, and then I realized and I saw, wait a minute, they'll take this and they'll just say, okay, well, this X2 cancels this X2, this X1 cancels this X1. So if F equals F plus F, you got two Fs. You don't have an infinite amount of Fs, you dumb. They just think the thing is that just because they're smarter than some of us, it doesn't mean we're totally stupid. These punks, and they know I could kick their butt too. Here's that Great Wall of India. Look at how long it was, Randy. Most people have never heard of the Great Wall of India. Over 500 miles. It was impassable. Not like that hokey bridge you could get across in China. This one was impassable. It was made out of weeds, man. Prickly pears and stuff like that. We're going to get into the Inland's Custom Line, also known as the Great Hedge of China or the Indian Salt Hedge. It was a customs barrier built by the British colonial rulers of India to prevent smuggling of salt. What's the most precious item after a reset society? Salt.
Maybe salt.
Yeah, salt. Iodine, salt, and iodine. Okay, we're gonna get serious now. You know, you got to have those things to live.
Well,
it's been 4 years.
Make food shelf stable, maybe.
I haven't done a video on the Inland Customs Line in like 4 years, so we'll be learning together again real soon. There are very few there, you know, it's just so little written on it. You know, you want to look up the Indian Salt Hedge and, well, that's not it. You know, Randy, that just looks like something yummy, you know, Sabrina. So anyway, I looked up some maps in case everybody, because we are a flat Earth show here. Downloaded me a new background. Did you see that one, Randy?
Like I said, I didn't do much over the weekend.
No, I just meant
But we did get registered for Medicare yesterday.
See, I've got a new background here. I left the Google balloon for tonight's episode because I knew we'd probably get into some flat Earth map excursions. Did we do that one already? Yeah. So this is that same map with just the flat Earth. Looks like somebody put the azimuthal equidistance map inside the Ferguson square and whatever he calls it. I'm not saying I endorse this map. I just think it's the coolest art of a flat Earth map there could be. I love it. I wish that I could have saved my poster somehow. Now, you know how expensive that Blue Letter Bible software is. It's like over $100. But this is the map that Blue Letter Bible software puts out as the way the Bible describes the sun, the moon, and the stars, the sky, the firmament. From what I understand, the Blue Letter Bible people, they try really hard. They got a lot of money to do really good stuff with. I think it's cool. Look at these. It's got gates and stuff. So that's
Windows.
Windows. Got like a little gate of heaven here. It's pretty cool. I mean, nobody's gonna die and go like, that's what it is, or I'll die. Oh, is these extra lands outside the dome? No, it's just Bible verses, but that's pretty cool too. That's super cool. As a matter of fact, that's a real cool poster. That I had that multicolored poster of like the 120 names of Jesus in different colors in a 2 foot by 4 foot.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It was really good. His name will be called Wonderful Counselor, and it goes just names them all. I had that at the bottom of our stairs going down into where we had, 2 bedrooms and a laundry room and stuff, So we saw it every day. I like it.
Oh, it's a roulette wheel. Oh no, I guess not. There you go.
It's kind of like a roulette wheel. There's that one. I just picked the wider ones in case. Now, here's a good one. This is a cool one. How was round Earth reconciled with the T and O maps? That T and O has something to do with the way they break down the continents. I used to know what that meant, but I forgot. That's an interesting picture, isn't it? Look at this. It's not
part of an eyeball, is it?
Look at the sun just throwing in the light. Oh yeah, this is part of your eye, or with this one, maybe they're doing part of the brain, but it definitely would be. These are all going to be just like what it is. Originally, this was a model of the eyeball Earth. That's a beautiful example. So we'll look at some more maps. I had this pulled up because this is a picture of Sitka, because we're going to be looking at Russian American company. You know that they Russian and Americans had a company where they captured Tartarians, took them to the St. George and St. Paul Islands, forced them to club seals to death so that they could make all of those top hats that you see like Abraham Lincoln and everybody wearing. Yeah, those are made of seal furs that the Russian American company got got in this idea that everybody would like a seal hat. So they kidnapped some people from northern Russia, Siberia. I just am assuming they're Tartarians. Took them to these islands, kept them there for like 40 years, clubbing seals to death. And for their pay, they said, well, we feed them and house them. It sounds like slavery. Now, the reason
So what do they have to complain about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And probably the clubbing of the seals in the wintertime, because, it sounds like that'd be easy, but it's probably a hard job, a lot harder than it would seem, clubbing seals.
I'm thinking it was fairly rugged, weather, territory. Yeah.
And this was one of my earliest videos, was about the Russian American company killing all the seals with slaves. And it's funny how I found out about it. I was studying, why was it only Japanese from the West Coast that were interned during World War II, and not the Japanese, from the East Coast or from the Midwest? It was just the Japanese on the West Coast, almost like it's a separate country or district or something. So, and I was studying about that, and I got to the part about, they were one of the people that had reparations paid to them, because, hey, they took away their businesses, they did this and that. It was a token amount, but they did pay those Japanese something. And I was reading it, and in parentheses, it said, this should be not construed that any money will be paid to anybody else that has a claim against the United States. And in parentheses, it said, except to the Aleutian Indians, or the natives of the Aleutian Islands, and it cited some code. So I looked that up, and then it opened all up, man. The United States had to pay them back when the government was being reorganized in the, right after the banking fiasco there, the creature at Jekyll Island and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they were redoing all that, then it was kind of like, oh, crap. Now we got to pay these guys. No, it would have had to be after World War II. So it was late that the Aleutians, it might have been a part of that 1958, because there was that time, if you remember, where I found a clipping that just said that you cannot return to your post in the Senate or the Congress unless you sign this thing that says there has not been a takeover of the government. People remember that one. So we got that to look forward to, a little bit of Russian American company coming. Who was the Russian American company? If you can't trust the Jewish press, who can you trust? So we'll be looking at, a little bit of the Alaska divorce, the story behind the strangest real estate deal in history. I'm telling you, you're not going to believe it. That's the worst Jewish imitation ever. And I can't find out anything about this, because I'm still into it. I mean, this was, it's not, that might seem like a lot of topics for a lot of people, but not me. I was looking for more, Randy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was reading this article in preparation. I was skimming it, Randy. And anyway, I saw here that the Russian American company, well, I'm just going to read this sentence cold. Starting in 1797, with its forerunner, the United American Company, to 1921, the Russian American Corporation collected the following inventory of furs worth 16 million rubles. And a ruble went a lot further back then. Okay, so they clubbed 1.3 million foxes. I don't know if you club that. I don't know if you club foxes like everything else. So they're probably super expensive. Sea otters, 72,000. 60,000 river otters. 34,000 beavers. 30,000 sables. 17,000 wolverines. 15,000 fur seals, along with smaller numbers of lynx wolf, sea lion, and walrus, and even bears. But I couldn't find anything. So I'm there, I'm there like, wait a minute, it's Forerunner, the United American Company, and you can see it's not highlighted. It's like there's no link. So it's whole Forerunner back in 1797, and there's no historical worthiness to it yet. Fat Kenny has a freaking Wikipedia page. So anyway, it's all I could find, there isn't anything about it. It's always this United American Insurance Company that was founded in 1947. There's this thing. I thought maybe that's it. Nope. United Yukon Company Limited. Not even the same. So anyway, I wasn't able to find out anything about that. But Randy, anytime you want to interrupt this video, just go ahead, because we've heard a lot of this before. But
well, I mean, without switching sources, I don't know, DuckDuckGo or however, what.
Here we go. So we're going to move on. I'm looking forward to any comments. Now you can see it's turned all the way up, and there is a complaint here. Needs more volume. There's nothing I can do about that, people, but it's important. So I'm going to just ask everybody to tell, politely, everybody in the room with them, simmer down, quiet. I got to listen to this.
People and the assets of the United States. Each fact is supported by official sources. Source documents are available at www.anticorruptionsociety.com under the tab Source Documents. 1913. With the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, a private foreign banking cartel was made the fiscal agent of the United States. Source document, Representative McFadden, Congressional Record, June 1932. From the website of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, quote, the entry of your...
Boy, you remember back in the early 60s, Randy, how fun it was to read those Snoopy books, and he was fighting the Red Baron, and it was so exciting, just something to laugh at.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't remember that was such a simple time when
the United States into World War I added to the responsibilities of the young Federal Reserve Bank. It helped finance U.S. military expenditures by becoming the fiscal agent of the federal government. 1920, Congress handed the U.S. Treasury over to the same private banking cartel via the Independent Treasury Act. Source document, Independent Treasury Act, 1920. 1921, the Council on Foreign Relations was founded to direct the media. Paul Warburg was its first director. Warburg also drafted the Federal Reserve Act and became the Fed's first governor. Paul Warburg was an agent for the Rothschilds banking dynasty.
Wow. Randy, that I've heard that this Paul Warburg was the model for Daddy Warbucks, who likes to adopt little red-headed orphans.
Yep, little orphan Annie.
That was it. Yep. Warbucks, Warburg, I get it. And hey, look there's a top hat.
Yeah, go figure.
If it wasn't for clubbing the seals, that'd be kind of cool.
1925. The United States Corporation Company was chartered in perpetuity in Florida by its fiscal agent. Source document, Articles of Incorporation, United States Corporation Company. This company was created without the approval of Congress, nor the knowledge and authority of the American people. Note, in 1925, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York had offices on Cedar Street and on Broadway, both cited in the Articles of Incorporation. Source document, Articles of Incorporation, United States Corporation Company. The United States Corporation Company created a maximum of 100 shares of stock. Source document, Articles of Incorporation, United States Corporation Company. The Articles of Incorporation revealed the names of 3 individuals who held only 5 shares. The other shareholders were not identified.
Well, now would have been a good time to we're right here. Who were those 3 people? It wouldn't take any time at all just to tell me. I've never heard.
Yeah, the other 95 shareholders, or whoever holds the other 95, because 3 own 5 shares. Is that?
Yeah, and what does one guy own 3 and the other guys own 2, or do 2 own 2? I want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's a secret. It's a money cartel. That's what it is.
Look, I got $20, man. I would pay them $20 if they could come up with the info. I'll make it worth their while.
That's why they'll never audit the Fed. That's why they'll never do it.
The U.S. Treasury was raided by the private Federal Reserve Bank, who then
Yeah, see, that's a good one. They're a private company. Did I just understand that they raided the government? Oh,
well,
man.
they own it. They own it.
I guess, but still.
The Great Depression and bankrupted the United States Corporation Company.
Doggone it.
Document Representative Lewis McFadden. Congressional Record, June 1932. 1933, a state of emergency was claimed.
I love this picture, Randy, because we're supposed to believe that all of these guys, along with being in the Ku Klux Klan and stuff like this, Yoko, they're just bound by secrecy. It's the best for everybody in the world not to know that this guy's in a wheelchair, the president, FDR. And
they're all in for the New Deal.
They're all in for at least that we don't need the American people to know that the president can't walk.
No, because we'll have their hand in your pocket and it'll stay there.
The only time that they admitted it was when they said, hey, look, due to all of these ingredients that we're putting in the air and the water and the food, everybody's going to be fat and dumb and handicapped real soon. And we're making all these handicap markers. And don't make fun of people in wheelchairs, because FDR was in a wheelchair. Everybody knows it now.
And Congress gave the president unconstitutional emergency powers. Source document, Congressional Record, March 1933. On behalf of the private Federal Reserve, President Roosevelt confiscated the people's gold and forced all to use the Federal Reserve notes from then on. Source document, Congressional Record, March 1933. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation. Therefore, their notes are privately owned currency. The people and the property of the United States was hypothecated and placed unlawfully in a public trust. Source document, Representative Trafficant, Congressional Record, March 1993. Hypothecate means to pledge as security without delivery of possession. 1933. The Internal Revenue Service was chartered in Delaware as a private corporation. It is not a division of the U.S. Treasury. Source document, Internal Revenue Service Corporate Charter, 1933. The United States is a private corporation with unnamed stockholders. A private corporation is its fiscal agent. A private corporation owns and circulates the currency we are forced to use. A private corporation expects us to pay them taxes. The U.S. CEO, the President, has maintained unconstitutional emergency powers for the past 80 years. Source document, Senate Report 93549 and Continuation of the National Emergency 2012-2013.
What?
Quote, all United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers, with the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved. Source document, Representative.
With that, Randy, what's your opinion on we should stop with the argument of this was never a democracy, it was always a republic? Because I guess not anymore.
Well, no, it began in like that was Franklin's quote. If you're able to keep it, it currently was at that time, and it was for a while thereafter. But that was his,
right, okay, yeah, I get it.
Contingency.
You see what I'm trying to say. I understand it from that point of view better now, but it still is the argument is that we can't go like it's a republic if it's not anymore.
Getting back
we have to get these Q people to come all the way, just like they need to accept, like they have a lot of those conspiracies, except they need to accept flat earth. That's the easiest one to me. And then 9/11 and John Birch and tear down the 5G towers and all that stuff.
But back to, keeping up with the Joneses, they needed a legitimate reason to put a swimming pool in the White House. And being that it was for, his rehab, it's a done deal, Roosevelt.
Right. And they probably put in that bowling alley to make them think he could walk and bowl. Just a couple more minutes, Randy. I got a surprise Bible study coming up for you.
All right.
Trafficking, Congressional Record, March 1993. Today, as has been demonstrated, the United States is just a corporate franchised network represented by their all-caps names, such as State of Ohio. Corporate statutes have replaced laws. A corporate statute is a rule of a corporation given the force of law by the consent of the parties. This consent generally requires a signed contract.
To get into a little bit more, here's some of the books that they recommend. This one seems like it has it's that Eustace Mullins. Now, I've heard a lot, good and bad. I just don't, they're not Christian enough for me. But, after they show a couple of these things, she gets back into
Gog and Magog is biblical. It is not Christian.
We might come back to listen to some of this more, but everybody basically gets the idea, the general gist of it. But I want to look at as long as you're here now, and I don't think you got a chance to see this afternoon.
I did not. Yeah, correct.
Then we need to remember. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you Daniel chapter 4. What are we going to do with December 25th? What are we going to do with Christmas? Because we're going to have to, if I get it to realize that or is it 5?
Well, without Christmas, you wouldn't have Easter. I know that.
Well, we don't have to know, we don't know when Jesus was born, but according to the Bible, we know something happened on the 12th month and the 25th day that was very important for all of mankind. Now, where was it on the 12th month on the 25th day of the 12th month, he got his mind back, and then is it
Nebuchadnezzar?
5? Is it 5? It's
after 7 years. Yeah,
I'll have to look
do a
at
little scan.
Yeah, I did. I guess I thought that it'd be right there. That's the way he's always going to do it. Come on, Heavenly Father. Jeremiah 5? Oh, man. I was Jeremiah 52, not Daniel.
Okay.
So we'll look at it in Jeremiah 52, verse 31. And in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 25th day of the month, evil Murdoch, who is doing a great thing here, king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, graciously freed Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and brought him out of prison. And he spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat above the seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon, so that Jehoiakim could put off his prison garments, and every day of his life he dined regularly at the king's table. And for his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king according to his daily needs until the day of his death, as long as he lived. I started contending this morning that
But I don't believe that the 12th month of that calendar is the 12th month of our calendar. I may be wrong, and I usually am.
Well, but most people would agree with you on that assessment. They would say that their 12th month was our 10th month or something like that.
Sure.
Because our October is 8. And Deca 10, December. So yeah, they're but what are people going to read? They're going to see 1225. And so what I'm trying to build here is that the time of the Gentiles started when these people, the Persians, the Aryans, the Zoroastrians, who they called Elion, Ahura Mazda, because they spoke a different language, but they still knew that it was the God who created everything and is above all other gods. They basically came to an understanding, oh my goodness, Jehoiakim is the king of Judah, and without him, the Gentiles will never be saved, because the Messiah's got to come through this one, starting with my great-grandfather, who married Esther. These Jews have been right about everything. And now, I'm going to read in a minute where he's going like, I command you to serve the God of heaven from here on out. And that is starting the time of the Gentiles. And it perfectly describes perfect Zoroastrianism. Not, Zoroastrianism went through all of the, it has a lot of denominations now, including a lot of Zoroastrians who are going like, well, we don't definitely believe that God is superior than the night god, the evil god. They could be dualistic gods, and they've gone away from mostly being monotheistic. But when it started, what they believed, it was that Zoroastrians taught that the God of the Hebrews was the true God.
Yeah, based on evidence,
And somebody
promises
decided. So work with me now, and your comment right after I finish this. So somebody along the line took the 10th month, called it the 12th month, founded a Trinity, and said worship Jesus on 12/25. Somebody did that to us, Randy.
Yeah.
This is fun, huh?
Sure. Yeah. I enjoy this.
Jeremiah is so cool. He's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder,
Yeah, and And Jeremiah thought it was so neat to make that deal while he was in prison, you know, with his relative. Because, yeah, he had something to live for.
Yeah. Is it Daniel 7 that has the best of the speeches? This is a good one. This is what happened to it. You know, this was like, I think, you know, because God had to build him up like Pharaoh, you know, so he had to really bring him down, you know, but God works with those kings in different ways. I'm just going to start at Daniel 7, verse 12. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was removed, but they were granted an extension of life for a season and a time. Verse 13. In my vision in the night, I continued to watch, and I saw one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. Well, that's Zoroastrian, and that's Revelation 19, you know, in Acts 2. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence, and he was given dominion, glory, and kingship, that the people of every nation and language should serve him. Yay! Yay! Hooray! That's us, man. That's us. That was like, yay, we're going to be saved. And they knew it. They exercised a lot of faith towards that, those God-fearers like Cornelius, you know. So his dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away. His kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Okay, so we know who they're talking about, you know.
Definitely.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back to, you know, because even, you know, these are some of the things. I know that he misinterpreted that one sign and he built the statue to himself. Yeah, I get that. But still, his sanctification was building, and he said, you know, how great are his signs, how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an eternal kingdom. His dominion endures from generation to generation. So he knew all about that, and he's, you know, he said that, you know, he goes, I am pleased to declare the signs and wonders that the Most High God has performed for me, and he even named him right. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, let's see how happy. Where is the lion? Where is the lion's den? Because remember how happy he was when Daniel gets out of the lion den. What is that? Chapter 6.
Yeah, chapter 6 is Daniel and the
His
lions.
thing is that when he gets rescued, it's pretty right on. And Darius is the man, you know. He's the founder, like documented one of the biggies of perpetrate, you know, of being like, hey, we're Babylon, you know. I run 1/3 of the world, and I'm sending a letter saying everybody should worship the God of the Hebrews, and in my third of the world, it's commanded you have to. Anyway, he wrote this letter.
Chapter 6, verse 20 is the king's response at the den door.
Here it is. 25. Then King Darius wrote to the people of every nation and language throughout the land, may your prosperity abound. I hereby decree that in every part of my kingdom men are to tremble in fear before the God of Daniel. See, that's just a great start. For he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his dominion will never end. He delivers and rescues. He performs signs and wonders in the heaven and on earth for he has rescued Daniel from the power of the lion. Yay. So that was all. Hooray. It's all good. That's good stuff, man. Holy writings must be safe from fire or destruction. 400,000 pieces of paper weren't introduced until the 10th century, so in the 900s on sheepskin. You know, that's one thing about they didn't just have paper. They couldn't go to the Home Depot or the Office Depot, I mean, and buy a crate of paper. And some of those wouldn't have lasted, like those maps and some of the other codexes. That's vellum. That's written on sheepskin, and very expensive. And the big ones, some of the old ones on buffalo. The people that were like Darius and Cyrus, who put these big inscriptions on the mountain saying, "Fear the Most High God," and we know who he worshipped. It was clear he sent letters, the God of Daniel, Mahura Azda, the Most High God. And that is the same thing in Hebrew, El Elyon, the Most High God. So welcome, Luther. We had quite a interesting thing. We were talking a little bit about the United States government. We went into a quick Bible study just to whet our appetite. How long do you think you can stay around, Randy?
Another 20 minutes or half hour maybe.
Okay, then let's hit some of these other things here so that we can then I'll come back to that stuff about the Constitution and stuff. I just thought this qubit stuff was interesting. Quantum superpositions. Just bear with it a minute.
A load of numbers between 2 and the square root of some other arbitrary number. Floating point inaccuracies are the reason we add this 0.1 plus 1 bit at the end. So, take number 100. We're going to look at a qubit with the values of 2, 3, 4, all the way up to, say, 10 or 11. It's going to have all of those values at the same time. We'll then do the modular operation on everything and the calculation of everything. We're going to look at a qubit.
Yeah. See, in quantums, once you choose a number, okay, you got it. But in the meantime, it's all the other numbers at the same time. That's how they get their math to work, by saying 97% of the universe is dark matter. You just can't see it, but we know it's there because our math works. And they just, circular reason themselves with a right cross. So you know what? That's it. We don't need to go. The qubit thing is a joke. Quantum entanglement and superposition is an absolute joke.
Is a complete description of reality, and our experience of a well-defined material universe only has meaning at the moment of measurement.
Only at the moment of measurement.
Peekaboo universe is the heart of Bohr's Copenhagen interpretation. On the other hand, Albert Einstein insisted on an objective reality, a reality independent of our observation of it. He insisted that the wave function, and by extension quantum mechanics, is incomplete. There must exist what we call hidden variables that reflect a more physical underlying reality. In an effort to demonstrate the silliness of Bohr's idea, Einstein, along with Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen, proposed a quantum scenario that showed that in order to abandon the assumption of realism, you also had to abandon a concept almost as sacred: locality. Locality is the idea that each bit of the universe only acts on its immediate surroundings. This is fundamental to Einstein's relativity, which tells us that the chain of cause and effect can't propagate any faster than the speed of light. The Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen, or EPR paradox, introduces one of the most mysterious ideas in quantum mechanics: quantum entanglement. Here's the idea. Two particles interact briefly, They influence each other so that their properties are somehow connected. And yet we refrain from measuring these properties to preserve quantum uncertainty. Quantum mechanics requires that we describe the particle pair with a single combined
And you have to believe this happens though you can't see it, and with this math you can make an atomic bomb.
Okay.
And if you don't understand it, you're the stupid person that can't see the emperor's beautiful clothes. I'm not that stupid. Just because I wasn't the smartest kid in my class doesn't mean I was stupid. These guys are stupid for buying it hook, line, and sinker. Why?
Well, it's a good thing they do a poor job of teaching it then.
They don't do a poor job of scaring people off. I was always afraid to go past trigonometry. Because what if I couldn't understand it? Because when you first look at their overwhelming algorithms and just paragraphs of math equations, it's scary. Like when you're 18, you're going like, what am I getting into? You know? It's crazy.
Well, I believe that was somewhat Tesla's assessment.
Yeah, well, and that's what's funny is that here they're using Einstein to show how stupid, what we finally accepted Bohr's method was. But if you listen to Tesla, Einstein's an idiot. We know Fat Kenny, he proved all these things with magnets that the world regrets that have to admit that he's even human, which there's doubt. I'm just kidding. But anyway, we know now they're stupid. There is an ether. But there could be new people that still have to learn this stuff, and that they think that we should live in fear of atomic bombs. And I don't know what that's like to live in fear of an atomic bomb. Well, I remember what it was like. It sucked. I was like, oh no, we're gonna die.
Climb under your desk. This is a test.
I've done that 2 or 3 different times. Good outside in the hallway. Here we go.
Wave function that encompasses all possible states for both particles. We call such particles an entangled pair. Now, according to the Copenhagen interpretation, any measurement of one particle automatically collapses the entire entangled wave function and so affects the results of measurements of the other particle. That's an influence that could theoretically be transmitted instantly across any distance.
And everything is theory.
Right.
Speculation.
Let's jump ahead.
Speculation.
I know you gotta get to sleep. What time do you get up? 3:30?
No, I get up 5:30 or a little before.
You've got time, but no matter where we pick here, because I'm still going to try to respect your time. This guy's still just talking about nonsense, baby. We'll just jump ahead.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be theoretical nonsense.
Yeah, you can't see it, so it has to be animated.
Once connected, but there'll be no correlation due to our choice of measurement axis. Scenario 2, Bohr was right.
No!
Between creation and measurement, the electron and positron only exist as a wave function of all possible states. In that case, measurement of...
Don't have to pick one.
There was vibration and frequency.
Yeah,
definitely.
it could be all of them, or it could be someone you didn't think of. But in between creation and the time you got to measure it, it presented as all possible situations, and then they picked the right one.
Yeah.
Spin should cause the entire wave function to collapse, to take on defined values. Both particles should then manifest opposite spins along whichever axis we choose for one of the particles. That should lead to a correlation between our choice of measurement axis for the first particle and the spin direction then measured for the second. This is exactly the spooky action at a distance that made Einstein so uncomfortable. So John Stewart...
It freaks me out that they settled on that one. Spoiler.
Well, I don't know why doesn't he just jump into and say how life is so simple? You just write out your DNA chain and then you stuff it in that little box, and it just, you know.
Or like that old joke, life is so simple that when we were lined up in heaven, I thought God said roses, but he meant noses when I said, give me a big one.
Since then, many experiments have verified this result over larger and larger distances. The instantaneous influence has been observed over many kilometers at this point. The delayed choice quantum eraser, which we already covered, is yet another example of this strange result. It's now been thoroughly confirmed.
Looks like strange results.
This is thoroughly confirmed too, because the math doesn't lie. The math
it's all theory
every time.
Bell inequality.
Yeah, it's confirmed theory. Just like gravity.
Just like and kill both locality and realism.
All their other tricks.
Do we really, all we had to sacrifice.
Local hidden variables.
This is all we had to sacrifice.
Copenhagen interpretation and kill both
locality
and realism. Who needs them?
Yeah, sanity. Just sacrifice the sanity and you'll be fine.
If you kill locality of what's going on and what you can observe, and any form of realism, like that tree really doesn't make a sound when it falls in the woods. Yeah, sanity's going down with it. Ipso facto. Ipso facto.
Locality and realism? Do we live in a peekaboo universe that vanishes into quantum abstraction when we aren't looking at it?
It kind of reminds me of a boring comedy act.
Yeah, look at how weak this little joke is. Like peekaboo at the beginning. When you play peekaboo with a baby, do you think the baby is thinking, oh, the person completely disappeared from me? Or are they just feeding off your emotion of playing around? This is how he assumes everybody thought of what it's like to play peekaboo.
The answer.
Right.
Babies may suck at math, but they're actually surprisingly good at quantum mechanics. Well, one fundamental aspect of it anyway. The peekaboo game is thought to be so hilarious to babies because they lack object permanence.
What? That's why we always thought it was funny? Oh, it's so hilarious to the baby because they lack object permanence, so I'm going to play peekaboo. Because it's funny to watch a baby get stumped and be so bad at math. Am I making too big a deal out of this, Randy?
I don't believe it. Not even more than the deal he's making.
Hide your face with your hands and a baby won't automatically assume that you kept existing. Reveal your face again and it's as though you popped into existence from nothing.
I never thought that. And I played
that makes a lot of sense.
I played peekaboo dozens of times. And I never thought that the baby was thinking anything of the sort. Nor was I.
Which is, of course, a hilarious thing to do.
Does he even know what the word hilarious means?
Well, other than watching him.
Yeah. So here we'll get a look at this ancient Benin city. I had that pulled up, so you might want to know about that. Series of earthworks, 9,900 miles. That's more than that hedge I'm going to be looking at. Just thought maybe I'll just show you some pictures of this.
Yeah, it sounds like a decent construction project. I don't know how long it took to complete it from start to finish.
Well, they don't have too many pictures of it in the Wikipedia. Well, I thought they'd have more pictures of it.
I mean, that'd be like, 3 times across the United States or better. East to west.
So, wow. You know what I'm talking about. It's just you know, maybe they're just counting all of these as you know, it's still, it seems like it would have to still be a lot for 9,000 miles. This might just be the capital.
Yeah, nice space.
So I guess they're trying to make an argument that this is the largest construction ever. What?
I thought the Tower of Babel was.
Well, that was when they were going for height on that. I think they're just trying to say it's bigger than the Great Wall of China.
Okay.
Because I don't know if there's any agreement on, you know, where is, you know, this was the Tower of Babel for sure, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And there's some ancient Kano city walls. I don't know anything about it. I just saw that they said they were initially built around 95 or in the 11th century. Your choice, you know. So it was a defensive wall with the construction and foundation by Jijimasu Sarki to his friends, third king of the kingdom of Kano, another one that I'd never even heard about. Hey guys, what's up? So anyway, 1903, of course, they discovered him again. Hey, look what we found. No pictures, I guess. Here's a list of walls. Well, this is all great. The Great Wall. There's a lot of them, I guess. Serpent's Wall in the Ukraine. Ofa's Dike. What'd you call me? Ethaneric's Wall in Romania. Wow, that's a big one.
Another big one.
That's not even like as badass as the one that was the salt tax one in India. Wow, but still, it's huge. Think they had camels on this?
It was probably just, you know, done for a reason, not just to do it because you can.
Oh yeah, they needed to get, you know, because those the young ladies in Oklahoma on the Cherokee reservations needed those crystal beads from Europe, and they got them somehow. They're all over the place in Oklahoma. They came from Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, you know, in that area. So I mean, it's not like we you know, we know that these are worldwide traders. Traders, I'm telling you.
So yeah, it's just part of the logistics, getting her done.
Yeah. Hey, there's Ishmael. He had 12 kingdoms. You know that they had 12 kingdoms, Ishmael did. Or was that Esau? There's that cubits. I said no math in the title, but I think I said I was kidding because it's not really math. Is it a wave? Is it a particle? I just can't stand it. Oh no. It's kind of like if you turn on a light in the garage, you know, and say there's a pantry between the garage and the kitchen, you know, kitchen's in between the pantry. If somebody turns on the light in the garage, if you can't see the light in the garage, some of that light still gets there. We like to call it diffraction. It doesn't mean that, oh my goodness, it's existing as a wave and a particle at the same time. Let's build an atomic bomb. It does to some people.
Their theory of the, you know, the luminary, the stars be the same. You know, I don't know where they're.
They sure do come
Right.
up with the good graphics, though. This doesn't
But you know, you
prove
said they call it a cubit, right?
Yeah.
No, they're not just mocking the measurement of, you know, like Noah building the ark, and because that
Oh
was
my goodness, in cubits?
right. I mean,
Yeah,
are they mocking?
QUE. Yeah, like it'd be QUE.
But I mean, it's spelled different, but it's pronounced pretty much.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
homonym.
so are they just mocking? You know what you should already be familiar with.
Well, I know that there's people in the chat room that would agree with you that every word is important to them. So I guess we'll just we have time for a quick look. Make sure I'm still sharing the screen here. This is that Punjab, Bengal, I guess, Patagonia, where
So
the
that
giant.
goes through the Himalayas, or
No, that's up here where my mouse is, where Patagonia and the giants would be up here, right in this area. That'd be Patagonia,
Nepal, that area.
Yep. Bangladesh is what they call it. And Bombay was actually the headquarters of Zoroastrianism. The worship of Ahura Mazda, the Hebrew god, was centered in Bombay on this side of the hedge. So let's see what this was written. This says in 1995, I purchased a copy of Rambles and Recollections of an Indian Officer by Sir Bill Sleeman. So he picked this up and he saw that one of the added footnotes that he was very happy to find, it read like this: to secure the levy of a duty on salt, there grew up gradually a monstrous system to which it could be almost impossible to find a parallel in any tolerably civilized country. A custom line, inland customs line, was established, which stretched across the whole of India, which in 1869, a tumultuous time for every country, wherever you're at, think of your country in 1869. We were just set to pass laws that said, remember that stuff about freeing the slaves? Sorry, we changed our minds. And we'll let them vote again in less than 100 years. And so let's say 1964. Okay, good. That works for them. So 1869 was a shitty year for a lot of people. Any comments, Randy?
No, I don't need to add to that. Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay, so this customs line that we'll read more about shortly, they finally get established, even though we couldn't find that other country or company that it was founded on or whatever with the Russians. So they're established. India's doing it, extended from the Indus to the Mahandi in the Madras, wherever, whatever that is. But that's a lot of miles, 2,300 miles. Okay, that's getting up there with the Wall of China. It was guarded by nearly 12,000 men. Well, that's, geez, you got 4 miles a day, guys. It would have stretched from London to Constantinople. Okay, now I get it. It consisted principally of an immense impenetrable hedge of thorny trees and bushes. Don't get thrown in that briar patch, Randy.
Yeah.
So this guy couldn't believe it. He said, this is crazy. He'd never heard about it. He was a big history guy. Looked around.
I mean, that's a pretty good, commitment for, 12,000 troops that you're going to sustain indefinitely.
No, they had to do it. Wait. The Wikipedia will have more about just like how many SEALs those guys were killing. They were making a boatload of money on salt because everybody needed salt. It was right after people are coming out of their caves on a reset and they're going like, wow, just like the, hey, what's up? I don't know. You got any salt? That's something like that. You remember that
Yeah.
guy we studied so much from Russia, and he had his family, and they ran away and hid for all those years?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yep.
And
I
they
recall
asked
that.
him, they asked him after they found him and his family in 1977. They said, "What'd you miss the most?" I think his name was Carl or something like that. And he said, "Salt. I miss salt more than anything."
There
And
you have it.
that stuck with me.
Yeah. Right.
Because I mean, when I start salting my ketchup for my French fries is when it doesn't look red anymore. So anyway, the Inland Custom Line was established in 1823 to enforce a very high tax on salt levied in the eastern third of British India. So take that, you Zoroastrians. Oh no, you don't have to pay as much. These guys have to pay as much, unless the maps are reversed. We just don't know. So it was all about
Tax is about going where the money is.
right. So here we'll just get to a little bit of the size. We'll pick it up right here. Eventually, the portion that ran from the river Indus almost to the Eastern Ocean was made into a thorn hedge. That's not a good. Even that, whoever got thrown in the briar patch wouldn't have been going like, yeah, wait a minute, on a second thought, don't throw me in there. 12 feet high and up to 14 feet thick at the base. And it is thorns. I guess you can't get through there. In 1879, the salt tax was equalized across India and the customs line abandoned. So that must have been, Satan's loose and he's getting that much closer to nation building. Something.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it no longer served the purpose it once did.
And don't feel bad. Even up at 4 years ago when I did my first video on the hedge, I stumbled on it that afternoon and did a video about it that night, and I was astonished. I went like, I never heard of this thing. What do you mean it's over 2,000 miles long? So it's out there. They did it because Wikipedia finally had to admit it. Yeah, okay. It's that same map that guy was talking about in the 1800s. Yeah, big salt line. Bombay a little bit more prominent there.
But it would still take a significant amount of time to grow that natural barrier, I would think. Even
yes. Oh yeah, 6-7 years.
Oh, anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have those guards
with lots of workers.
Yeah, your guards are going to be a lot busier. What did it last? 70 years. The first 10 years were the hardest for the guards. But I don't care about those guards anyway. Get a better job, you tax freaks.
Yeah.
Your country's name's Mysore. Good one. Look how much cooler it would be as if you're Nizam's dominions. Where would you rather live, Mysore or I'm in Nizam's dominions, baby. Nizam, baby. Sheiks lived up here. I don't know that much about the sheiks. So they made money and then they made more money. That's all off salt, Randy. See, that hedge, until that hedge grew in, or they started taking it more serious, the taxes really good. Let's face it, and those rupees, 1 rupee was 1 month pay in the 1820s. And they're getting millions of them. This Alan Octavian Hume, around 1890. Well, if he's any relation to David Hume, I don't like him. So any doubt about how big of a rocks they could move and what type of a rail car it would take, let those myths be dispelled, because we got some sort of a little bit of a recovery. They're digging out something here in a circle. They're either going to be found an unhewn stone to go into position.
Yeah, I don't know how they got it on the cart, but I'm sure that was just a typical challenge.
Yeah, it'd take more than these two guys.
I would think.
So these are the guys that were making, they said, now we're finally making money. Let's go sell cough drops. Hey, this guy Gandhi, he got famous by going on a salt march. How come nobody told me? I guess Winston Churchill hated his guts. And while they were doing World War II, they were having a little bit of a skirmish there in India, going like, no way you're breaking off from us. We're making too much money on salt or something.
Yeah, it looks like he has clown feet.
So we don't have time to look up all these people, Randy. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Flat Earth maps. Where's that fake check? You know what's a fun Russian word to say? Babushka. You ever hear that one?
Does it mean anything?
I think it's like what they wear on their heads.
Oh, okay. A lid.
Yeah, they wear more of a shawl type covering. I think it's a babushka.
All right.
What's this? The ceremony on the afternoon of October 18th, 1867 was supposed to be purposeful and short. A group of American soldiers who had recently reached the shores of the city of Sitka, that used to be called Archangel, in two steamships, marched towards the house of the Russian governor. They were going to go kill him or something, I'll bet, which stood on top of a hill in the city that was then the capital of Alaska. What? These sons of guns are coming to Alaska to kill somebody, Randy. So this group
Yeah, that's when the Russians owned it, though. Huh?
Yeah, the Russians are coming in 1867. Nobody told them. They were waiting for them in the courtyard. All of them stood in front of the flagpole, from which in a few moments the two-headed black eagle, the Russian Tsar's emblem, would descend and the American star and striped flag would be hoisted. But the Russian flag refused to go down. Two testimonies that have been preserved since described a stubborn struggle that had to wage no less than 4 Russian soldiers with the unruly flag with the eagle's claws. Oh, please. This sounds like a bunch of BS to me, man. What were they surrendering here? Is the only underscored Russia's surrender in negotiating one of the largest, most secretive. These Jews, they got they're in on a lot of secrets. I'm saying that because I'm reading a Jewish newspaper or something, article. Bizarre, secretive, profitable real estate transactions in human history. Exactly 1 year later, there are still those trying to find real reasons and motives for this deal, which cost the United States a little over $7 million, about half a cent per acre. They even knew about a gold rush that was coming. The Russian affair with Alaska began
That's called inside trading. Inside trading.
So exactly 30 years after the 1,000 years ended and Satan was loosed, a Russian affair began when Vitus Bering, you might have heard of that Bering Strait Gold.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, he was a Danish. Where is that crap? Didn't I have anything about the? Where is the? I had the Russian American company. I know I had the picture of the West English company. I used it as a thumbnail. Shoot, I'm running out of time and I'm getting tired. But anyway, we're back. So I was going to show you something else, but we're going to keep going on this. So for the next 50 years, right after the reset, these guys were killing and making a lot of money. You find a seal, they'll club it. You find a cheetah, they'll grab it. That reminds me, as a little personal advice for you and the people in the chat room and the dozens that'll watch later this week, what's the one animal you never want to play cards with? A cheetah.
Sure.
Hey, look, a polar bear. Wow, look at that guy. This is the capital. Ice. So after they realized they weren't going to make any money killing seals, it kind of was falling apart for them there. During the war, and with its dire consequences already in sight, the Russians were first seeded to sell Alaska in exchange for cash that would enrich its dwindling coffers, and also to prevent a situation in which Britain would occupy Alaska by force of arm. A Russian-American company agent has received approval from St. Petersburg to look into the possibility of selling the company to a group of San Francisco dealers. What? This initial initiative did not materialize.
That was plan A?
Right. They're going to just sell it to some people in San Francisco, Alaska. Mainly, but so it didn't work out, mainly because the British declared themselves ready to exclude Alaska area from the war. They feared that Russia would transfer territory to the United States control without war or free of charge, only to form an alliance against them, the British. But the seed of sale was sown, and it germinated in the soil of the American vision of the manifest destiny. That's what the Jews call it, open destiny, destiny manifesto, a term coined in 1845, but which had already worked in the hearts of the Americans, so they would have us all believe. So it all got worked out. They're going to do it, including Texas in the heart of the continent, everything. You get it all. I don't know if they say it here, but that check bounced. They never did get their money for it. So once again, it's Tsar Alexander II. And his murder, and the end really of all royalties, that after the Civil War, well, all royalties ended pretty much in World War I, except the Roman Catholic ones. I'm just saying. So that's crazy. So Randy, what do you say we pick out a Bible chapter, read it, and comment, and get out of here? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I'm about, yeah. So I don't know what you had in mind. But...
Well, let's read in Esther. We'll read about Nebuchadnezzar's grandfather. He's pretty cool. At least I thought so. Seemed like,
Oh, yeah.
Everybody can make up their own mind who they like. I'm not going to say, I get it. A lot of people watch these movies and they portray him as, I saw some of the clips of that. Well, let's see we got to be able to set the stage. You can give me, let's take one more minute just to get a look at of how they tried to portray this man in the Bible who married Esther. I think they make him look like a sissy giant.
Esparta, año 470.
Hey, you know what? The Thebans always hated Sparta. You know why? They really did kick one of their ambassadors down into a well. That's an accurate portrayal of history. And here's these guys. I don't know if that is this the same movie? Where's the king at? Where's Xerxes? There he is. There, see, there he is. That's not the guy in the Bible that we read about.
Yeah, I don't come away with that impression, but
yeah, this is supposed to be Artaxerxes. That's the guy that married Esther. I don't think so. Please.
hard to believe.
Yeah, because anyway, this is who they're talking about here. We're sharing now. This is what happened in the days of Xerxes, who reigned over 127 provinces from, well, we were just talking about India to Kush. In those days when he was setting up the religion of the true God, no, this was his grandfather. I shouldn't confuse people. He did not start Zoroastrianism, although he might have been a big influence on it. So anyway, he had this big feast, third year in. He invited all the officials and servants, the military leaders from, because it was Babylon, the Medes, and the Persians. So he invited everybody along with the nobles, princes, and provinces. You know how many forks that would take? And they were going to
party for over a half a year.
It's what? And they didn't have those plastic forks back then. I don't know how they do it. And so they fancied the place up with silver couches and, like I said yesterday, they used geopolymers, regular marble, and then they inset mother of pearl and other costly stones in their mosaics. It sounds like every star fort we've ever seen pictures of. That's Xerxes, man. So he had a little problem with Queen Vashti, but hey, if it wasn't for Queen Vashti,
with all that nice stuff, see, they weren't into hoarding it. They were into flaunting it. There's a difference, sort of.
Yeah. So anyway, like on the the first to the 12th days of Christmas, on the 13th day, which on the 12th month, which would have been on the first day of Christmas. No, I'm just trying to play in because we did that. The December 25th was when Jehoiakim got released. That's bad. It didn't even sound funny in my head. On the 13th day of the 12th month, in the month of Adar, the king's command and edict were to be executed. So here, this could be the great rescue that people often wonder, who's Zechariah saying that the Jews will have to be rescued and they were going to be killed, but in one day they're saved. And they never go to the book of Esther because everybody hates the book of Esther because it never mentions God except through his providence. And it spells out Most High God with the first letter of each chapter, something like that. So anyway, it's all about verse 2. In each of the provinces of King Xerxes, the Jews assembled in their cities to attack those who sought to harm them. No man could withstand them because the fear of them had fallen on the peoples. Because through Esther now, King Xerxes has been like, what? They're going to kill them all? They tricked me. And Esther went in and she risked her life and he put the sword out and didn't kill her. And so he goes like, that means like, whatever you want, I'll do it for you. And she said, I'm a Jew, don't kill me. And he goes like, for crying out loud, you're going to kill my wife, you son of a guns? You that wicked Haman, right?
Oh yeah.
The guy, that badass, yeah. So anyway, it backfires on them all in one day. No man, it says, could withstand them because the fear of them had fallen upon all the people. Because this guy Haman hated Mordecai, so he's going to get all the Jews killed. But then it booby-trapped, backtracked, and all the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, he had 127 just in his own, and the king's administrators helped the Jews because the fear of Mordecai, because Mordecai had really helped, he really helped out Xerxes. And you got to go read this book. For Mordecai exercised great power in the palace. And this was the first documented source of why the Babylonians would end up saying, we need to start a religion that worships the God Most High and start training people to watch the sky clock that they learn about so that we can be first in line when the Messiah gets here because he's coming. They don't see it, but we see it. He's coming for us too.
Yeah,
That's
but the humbling storyline, with Haman's plan, and then the king can't sleep. And then when Mordecai, told about the eunuchs that were going to murder the king, and that was early on, then Haman has to lead Mordecai around in the city.
I know.
Saying this is what the king does, for
right. Just for the people that haven't read it. The wicked Haman.
He was so embarrassed.
Haman
was so embarrassed. And then he
thought
built
going to be rewarded. So the king said, if I really want to honor somebody, what should I do? And Haman had just really come through for Xerxes. So he thought he was the one who could be honored. So he said, well, I'd just dress this guy up, have him ride around on the king's horse with another high official. And he thought that it'd be Mordecai leading him, but instead he ended up leading Mordecai around. Yeah, you talk about embarrassing. He went home and cried to his wife, right?
And built the gallows for himself.
Yeah, here's what happened.
It's a good story.
Yeah, so in Esther 9, verse 11, they're because Mordecai stepped in with Queen Esther, who started their appreciation of the Hebrew God, I would say. On that day, the number of those killed in the citadel of Susa was reported to the king, who said to Queen Esther, because he didn't kill her that day, in the citadel of Susa, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men, including Haman's 10 sons. What have they done in the rest of the royal provinces? So he's going, wow, 500 in one city. Baby, what's going on here? He goes, now what do you want to do? Because he's still, obviously, I'm not saying he should have divorced Vashti, but a king can have, back then he could get another wife and just say, you're a concubine now. So I'm glad that happened and that he ended up with Esther. So he's going, what else do you want to do? It goes, just keep naming, man, because you've got like half the kingdom. And so she goes, well, let's find out the other people that were in on this conspiracy, and let us also have tomorrow to keep getting to the bottom of everybody who wanted to kill all the Jews before Jesus could be born, because that's what the Babylonians ended up protecting. When, thank God, Jehoiakim was finally lifted up, and that the Judah bloodline was preserved providentially. What an exciting and wonderful book that we're reading. Now, I'm going to skip down to verse 18 for time's sake. The Jews in Susa, however, had assembled on the 13th and 14th days of the month, second, third days of Christmas. So they rested on the 15th day, making it a day of feasting and joy. This is why the rural Jews who live in the villages observe the 14th day of the month of Adar as the day of joy and feasting. It is a holiday for sending gifts to one another. I'm telling you, man, if I'm ever like the pastor of a tribe that's living in a free country and somebody tells me I can't give away some gifts on a date that everybody else is going like, I want to give away gifts on this day, I'm going to go like, let's do it. Let's do it. And so Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters to all the Jews in all the provinces. That's a lot of paper of King Xerxes, both near and far, to establish among them an annual celebration. So they had Christmas and Boxing Day. He wrote that these were to be the days of feasting and joy. So I don't think that, the people that necessarily with their pure hearts and loving God would like to celebrate something like that with feasting and stuff are necessarily, if they're not in their, it's just like, don't tell me in my heart I'm worshiping Satan. Because you're not worshiping Santa. I know Christians that do Christmas aren't thinking that I worship Satan. I love Santa. I don't know. So we got all that going on, man. Anyway, that's how we can close it out. I mean, I think Randy, that guy Xerxes didn't look like that guy in the movie. It doesn't describe a king that, it just describes a guy that is kind of still like crushing on his new wife, What do you want, baby? I'll do it.
Well, and we know how that transfer. He was trying to flaunt the queen, and she wasn't going to cooperate because she said they're all, basically shit-faced, and she wasn't going to go into that crowd for that reason. Basically,
he's talking about Vashti, wife number one.
And
she was supposed to be even as beautiful or more beautiful than Esther.
Well, I mean, everybody sees something different, but yeah, more than likely she was, a good competitor,
right?
No doubt.
The whole idea
slightly older,
and it possibly. You could kind of see her point today. Not many women, even women that are wearing Hannah bonnets and are in submission to their husband, are going to think it's cool to where, the girls are partying here, men are partying here, and all of a sudden they get a message from the men saying, dress up, the men want to look at you. Girls don't like that. They just don't like it.
What comes to my mind would be Herod at his party. And
another
then his stepdaughter.
Yeah, good one.
Then the stepdaughter comes in and takes center stage.
And then when the king with in his lustful passion going to promise her anything, she was so dumbfounded she didn't know what to do. She went and asked her mommy, and mommy knew what she wanted. This guy has been saying I shouldn't have married Herod because I married his brother because it was an unbiblical wedding. So how horrific of a mom. What a bad example.
Yeah.
So
right.
This is great.
She wasn't totally useless. She can always serve as a bad example. Correct.
Well, Randy, I don't know yet if I'm going to I might continue doing some research, but I know that you're on a tight schedule.
Yeah.
So if we might just pray early tonight. If you want to go ahead and pray, that way I'm just going to go ahead and let you go. Okay, brother?
Sure. Yeah. Abba, Heavenly Father, again, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity you've given Alan and I to go over some different topics, and as well as some scripture in a hopefully a meaningful way that is pleasing in your sight. We pray for all those present and those that may watch at a later time. The benefit of your spirit, as well as good health and well-being. We pray for Alan that you give Alan your spirit as he promotes your word in a way that pleases you. We pray for the health of everyone, as well as Tommy and his wife and all that are in this small family here. So we thank you again, and all this we pray in the Messiah Emmanuel's everlasting Father's saving name, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. And thank you, brother. Any final words?
No, just when you get there, sweet dreams, and hope everybody has a good night and safe travels if you're going anywhere.
I think I am going to go ahead and finish up with the last 15 minutes of that sovereign citizenship from 2010.
All right.
And, because that's pretty much where it started. Thanks a lot, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Good night.
So let's go back and we'll finish up. Now, the thing with this sovereign citizenship movement, I'm in it, don't do it. Don't pay taxes. Don't vote. Don't do anything like that. Don't want to put a license. I still have fake license, on the cars I drive, or I drive other people's cars, because I'm not ready to put, spend $5,000 on a car and put sovereign citizen on it and drive around Beaumont, Texas, or Chicago, or anywhere like that, just begging to get pulled over and go like, so you want to be a sovereign citizen, son? But I think that is a perfect right. You have that right. And I would love to have a place, it's like, well, this is our state. We don't use Wi-Fi and we don't need license plates. So a little bit more on that video. Remember, the audio on it is not on this end. It's just not turned up on their end. So I'll turn on the closed caption. But this will be a good review for all of you potential sovereign citizens, because something's happening with our economy. Something weird's going on. You know it is. I know it is. The American people know it is.
The names and post office addresses of the subscribers of this certificate and the number of shares of stock which each agrees to take are as follows. Louis B. Gunther, 150 Broadway, New York, New York, 2 shares. Samuel B. Howard, 150 Broadway, New York, New York, 2 shares. Arthur W. Britton, 150 Broadway, New York, New York, 1 share. Number 10. The directors and stockholders shall have power to hold their meetings and to have one or more offices and to keep the books of the corporation, except the original or duplicate stock ledger, outside of the state of Florida, and such place or places as from time to time may be designated by the bylaws or by resolution of the board. The directors shall have power, without the assent or vote of the stockholders, to make and alter bylaws of the corporation, to fix the times for the declaration and payment of dividends, and to fix and vary the amount to be reserved as working capital, to determine the use and disposition of any surplus or net profits over and above the capital stock paid in, and in their discretion, the directors may use and apply any such surplus or accumulated profits in purchasing or acquiring the bonds or other obligations or shares of the capital stock of the corporation to such an extent and in such manner and upon such terms as the directors shall deem expedient. but shares of such capital stock so purchased or acquired may be resold unless such shares shall have been retired for the purposes of decreasing the corporation's capital stock as provided by law. Page 7. We, the undersigned, being each of the original subscribers to capital stock herein before named, do hereby associate for the purpose of establishing a corporation pursuant to the Corporation Law, State of Florida, 1925. Witness our hands and seals the 7th day of July, 1925. Louis H. Gunther, Samuel B. Howard, Arthur W. Britton. In presence of Samuel G. Wood, as to all. State of New York, County of New York, July 7th AD, 1925, personally appeared before me, a notary public in and for New York County, duly authorized to take acknowledgments. Louis H. Gunther, Samuel B. Howard, and Arthur W. Britton, to me known and known to me to be the persons described in and who executed the foregoing instruments, who each acknowledged to me that he executed the same freely and voluntarily as and for his act and deed for the uses and purposes therein expressed. Witness my hand and official seal the day and year in this certificate first above written at New York County, New York. Samuel G. Wood, Notary Public. My commission expires March 30th, 1927.
If the American
If the
people
American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their money, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of their property until their children will wake up homeless. Thomas Jefferson.
maybe it wasn't a warning, but this is how you should do it, fellow Illuminati deists.
Following is a timeline demonstrating when and how a private central banking cartel got control of the people and the assets of the United States. Each fact is supported by official sources. Source documents, SD, are available at www.anticorruptionsociety.com under the tab Source Documents. 1913. With the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, a private foreign banking cartel was made the fiscal agent of the United States. Source document, Representative McFadden, Congressional Record, June 1932. From the website of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, quote, the entry of the United States into World War I added to the responsibilities of the young Federal Reserve Bank. It helped finance U.S. military expenditures by becoming the fiscal agent of the federal government. (1920) Congress handed the U.S. Treasury over to the same private banking cartel via the Independent Treasury Act. Source document, Independent Treasury Act, 1920. 1921. The Council on Foreign Relations was founded to direct the media. Paul Warburg was its first director. Warburg also drafted the Federal Reserve Act and became the Fed's first governor. Paul Warburg was an agent for the foreign Rothschild banking dynasty. 1925. The United States Corporation Company was chartered in Florida by its fiscal agent. Source document, Articles of Incorporation, United States Corporation Company, 1925.
Let's look that up. Where's the... So a lot of it comes from this video. There's just so many things you could search. The District of Columbia was the Organic Act. It was and is an act of Congress that repealed the individual charters of the cities of Washington and Georgetown and established a new territorial government for the whole District of Columbia. Though Congress repealed the territorial government in 1874, the legislation was the first to create a single municipal government for the federal district. Although it was repealed, so a federal district is a type of administrative division of a federation, usually under the direct control of a federal government and organized sometimes with a single municipal body. And sometimes, we think it's strange that we hear King James was in charge of England and Scotland. How's that possible? On paper, it's possible. A Residence Act created a new federal district that would become shortly after establishing operations in the new capital. Congress passed that's what we're looking at. Oh, there's an Organic Act we're looking at the Organic Act of 1871. That's right. This is 1801. What the heck is an Organic Act? Establishes a territory and specifies how it is to be governed, or an agency to manage certain federal lands. In the absence of an organic law, well, where's the link to that? Organic law, a system of law that formed the foundation of a government, corporation, or any other organization's bodies of rules. A constitution is a particular form of organic law for a sovereign citizen. No, a state. France got it. Spain got it. United States got it. Oh, darn, these guys are the bad guys. I'm beginning to think we're not the good guys. We really didn't save the day in World War II or in Vietnam and Korea, or really, even though I joined the army to start fighting those Muslims back in 1980, and my son joined in 2008. It looks like we lost. We didn't win in the war. And we didn't win the war against the communism. They were supposed to have quit by now because they wouldn't be able to feed their country, and they'd have to beg us to turn capitalist, and we'd help them because we thought we were the good guys. Here's an organic act. Well, it's in that page. They consider it organic somehow. Ba 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 ba. Organic acts. These are all organic acts. I like to eat organic. Here we got a revised organic act of the Virgin Islands. It's hard to decide what you're going to do with them. I wonder what we're doing with them now. I wonder what we need them for. Where are they? They're out there in the middle of the ocean somewhere. Jones laws, Guam. Two, the Alaska Syndicate. What? Sounds like a mafia move by two barons, J.P. Morgan and Simon Guggenheim, formed the Alaska Syndicate in 1906. Their influence spread by machine gun. No, they came to control the Kennecott copper mine, steamship and railroad companies, and salmon packing. Must have been in on the canneries. You know that's where the mafia hang out. I'm just kidding. I don't know that. I just know that there's a famous book about canneries. Probably going to turn it into a musical. Hey, look at it. I was born when this happened. I was already alive, man, when Alaska became a state. January 3rd, 1959. Oh, yeah. Paco was clocking in at 2 months already by that time in 1959. Big brother Randy was already 2.5 years old. Can you believe that? We were born when there were 48 states. Everything's brand new, people. This is our one reset. We're the rest of the dead that live not again. Just like Xerxes, and it led up to his grandfather was Nebuchadnezzar. There's Daniel in the lion's den and stuff like that. Well, man, for all, what we're finding out is that probably only 9% of you or those people out there are from families that are the orphan train eugenic experiments by the Theosophists, and Satan planned get the nations together and convince them that Armageddon's not over. Jesus was a liar. He didn't know what generation he was coming back. And once again, Lord willing, for 2 or 3 hours a night, I'm going to be here with you with right now only financial support from my own retirement and from my big brother Randy and my little brother Tommy. Yeah, you know what Obama said? There was like, I thought he said it was like 59 or something. I don't what it was something. He didn't know how many states there were. He might have been thinking how many cards there were in a deck of cards. Or you know what, Luther? Somebody might have Obama. They might have said, "Hey, Barack Hussein Obama, the great basketball athletic star. What was your score when you bowled?" I don't think he even got 59 when he bowled.
Those are some nice bowling shoes. All right, guys. Come up with clarification.
I think he got an 18 or something like that. That's pretty embarrassing. I hope I shared that. I mean, because even a kid can get a hit a bowling pin every now and then.
Wendy, thank you so much for having me here tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. How you doing out there tonight? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I said, how we doing out there tonight?
Is that the real Obama? Or was this the revved up Obama and the other Obamas found something to do with $65,000 of hot dogs from Chicago? I'm just hanging out with the people.
I thought this was a party. Don't tell me I flew all the way into Washington, D.C. And that's all the noise we're going to make. Not wrong. If there's one thing that my presidency is synonymous with, it's bowling. I don't know if you saw the footage from my 2008 campaign, but I'm pretty darn good. But I'm honored to be here with you tonight. And, I just been in the silent auction in that back room. It looks like I won the bid. Charlie Sheen and I are going to Tijuana for a 2-day vacation. So that should be fun.
There's no way that's really Obama. Is this fake? So this is before, this was a fundraiser. He's probably going to, on the 2014. So he might have been raising money for Hillary or just the Democrats in general at this time. Who are these people? These people had to give a lot of money to get their picture. But don't worry, he's not grabbing this girl, the president, because that's not his type. Here we go. I'm getting excited. We're bowling with the president. About 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago. How, these guys all gave, this looks like probably one of those couple $100 a head fundraisers. He looks like he's pretty high on cocaine or something. Driving that train. He got some. Boom! Now hold on a minute. Wasn't Obama left-handed? Did he take lessons on how to do it right-handed after that debacle where he only got 14?
Esparta, año 479. Esparta, año 479. Un pequeño niño es el...
Doggone it. I wanted to see that this one.
Those are some nice bowling shoes. All right, guys. Keep up with Casey.
Left-handed. Left-handed. That's right-handed. Oh, yeah. Okay, he is an impersonator. Doggone it. I'm a sucker. but I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
All right, before getting started with today's video, I just wanted to remind you guys to head over to hackingtheheadlines.com and you can get your Just Say No cards and do your part in fighting against tyranny. The link will be in the description. All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to Hacking the Headlines. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the epidemic that is going on in the sports world right now among very fit and healthy athletes who are experiencing things like sudden cardiac arrest, heart attacks, difficulty breathing, and even sudden death. So this is not being reported on a wide scale in the mainstream media, but there have been so many of these that I could not possibly cover them all in one video. So this video is going to focus on just the past month alone, all of the athletes who have suffered this type of medical emergency on and off the field. And the first case we're going to be talking about is a soccer star. His name is Usman Coulibaly. I'm sorry if I mispronounce some of these names. They're from a lot of different parts of the world. But he was in the middle of playing a soccer match and he collapsed and suffered from cardiac arrest. He's only 32 years old. He's one of the lucky ones. He did survive, but this whole thing was caught on video. Just take a look. وأن يعود إلى ضربة المنافس كل السلامة لكوليبالي كل السلامة لكوليبالي كل السلامة لكوليبالي كل السلامة لكوليبالي الذي يعاني منه كوليبالي في Okay, so again, he was one of the lucky ones that ended up surviving, but so many others were not so lucky. And that includes this young man who was only 25 years old. His name was Marcos Monaldo, and he was also a soccer player, and he reported that he was having difficulty breathing, and then he suddenly collapsed. And even though he received emergency CPR, they were not able to revive him, and unfortunately, he passed away in the hospital. So again, this has been an epidemic as of recently among athletes. This is another story that just came out January 5th of 2022. This is from the tennis world. Now, I can't even pronounce this guy's name, but he's a world-class tennis player, and he also reported difficulty breathing during a match. Take a look.
This is concerning. Ladies and gentlemen. Very concerning, I would say, Jeff. Oh. With more feedback. Yeah, sure.
Every shot I'm out of breath.
Well, I assumed it would be the knee, but seems to be struggling with his breathing.
Yep.
Okay, so it was after that he actually had to forfeit the game. I'm not sure of his status right now, but he was not cleared by doctors to return playing after that. But it does look like he survived. There is another young soccer player. His name was Sofiane Lakar. He was from Algeria. He also collapsed during a soccer game and suffered a heart attack and unfortunately passed away. He was only 30 years old. This is from MMA. There was a fighter, his name is Miroslav Strabek. He also suffered a heart attack recently. This was from January 7th, I believe, of this year. And he is in stable condition as of right now, but really young, fit, healthy guy suffering a heart attack, just like so many of these other athletes right now. This is a Croatian soccer player. His name was Marin Shakic, and he also tragically died. He was only 23 years old. He was in the middle of a training match and he collapsed and suffered heart failure and unfortunately passed away. Now, this is 3 different incidents that happened all within a few days of one another. This is from the professional French soccer leagues. The picture on your left is Victor Lindenlof, and then there's PRT Zielinski, and Martin Terrier. They were all struck by sudden chest pain during games, and all three experienced difficulty breathing. As far as I know, they're all okay, but people are suspecting that this could be from adverse reactions to the you-know-what. And this is yet another soccer player who experienced heart issues. This is from December of 2021. Abu Ogugu from the United Kingdom, I believe. He had to quit playing after he was diagnosed with inflammation around the heart muscle. This is from an unnamed hockey player who died suddenly from cardiac arrest. This was reported on Russia Today. He became ill while sitting on the bench during the game, and then he collapsed and suffered a cardiac arrest, and unfortunately also passed away. And this is from December 10th, 2021. This is Demarius Thomas, who played for the Denver Broncos. He also suffered from a sudden cardiac arrest, young, fit, healthy guy in the prime of his life, and unfortunately he was found unresponsive and passed away. Now, this is coming out of Westchester County, a firefighter who played on the high school football team. He was only 27 years old when he suddenly died from, you guessed it, cardiac arrest or a heart attack. Now, this is a story from a world-renowned ballroom dancer. His name is Maxwell Harrison, who had to give up dancing for at least a year while doctors tried to diagnose the problems that he experienced after receiving his secret sauce injection. But go ahead and take a listen to his own words.
Well, joining me now is international ballroom dancer Max Harrison, who developed pericarditis after his second Pfizer dose. He actually joins me in the studio now. Thank you very, very much for coming in.
All right.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm getting out slowly but surely.
Just explain to us, our viewers, a little bit about what that actually is.
So essentially, after my second vaccination, after 4 or 5 days, I started getting small pains in my heart area region. And by the 7th and 8th, it was getting so bad, I was having these attacks whereby I actually had to go to hospital because I couldn't breathe. And what we've seen in the last 2.5 months, essentially, is that I have developed pericarditis, which top cardiologists in the country do believe is from the vaccination.
So, gosh, so what does that mean in a practical sense day to day for you now then? Do you have to take medication for it, or I don't know how it works?
No, I'm not currently on medication, but what we are trying to slowly decipher is how bad and how much it affects my day-to-day life going forward. I've got a stress test coming up. I've got an MRI tomorrow to determine how bad the pericarditis is. Being a dancer, I can't dance anymore, completely off any physical exercise, and they reckon that's going to be between 8 to 12 months to properly and deal with this issue.
Okay, so this is just from the past month alone. The that I just shared were from December leading into January of 2022, but there are literally hundreds more. So I will be continuing to document this and make videos on this, and I will also make sure to stay on top of any future cases that are certainly going to happen. Now, I can't say for sure what is causing this, but I think we all have our suspicions here. And this is not normal, this is not normal, and it's really important we get the word out of what is going on. But until next time, I'm gonna leave you guys with this compilation of headlines of similar things happening to athletes around the world.
It's just one of those dragons. No, that's
cool, man. I decided to watch this John Levy video instead of, breaking down the studio.
So today is a beautiful day. I can't believe it. In my area, the average temperature should be at least freezing. Freezing should be the high. But for some reason, it's beautiful. Everything has melted, and I'm kind of tiptoeing around. But here I was inspired to explore one of my favorite topics, a World's Fair. And I thought we'd focus on the United States. And we would also focus on the first World's Fair in the United States, which was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It has the same characteristics as all the other World's Fairs. It was held for 6 months, this one having about 200 buildings, no shortage, and the year is 1876. This is the Centennial Expo, marking 100 years of good old America. What better way to celebrate 100 fresh American years? So they had a fair. And starting off, I want to be fair and neutral and approach this with an innocent spirit, somewhat naive, and see if any of this might make sense. As I've said in the past, I love to be wrong. Wouldn't it be nice to be wrong? And everything was actually just fine and dandy. So let's see what they have to say. In 1876, the first official World's Fair was to be held in the United States. In 1876, officially named the International Exhibition of Arts, Manufactures, it was held in Fairmount Park, a large park, the largest in Philly. 2 sections totaling 2,000 acres. That can't be right. Maybe just 2. And it's along a river, just like many of the buildings of the old world, seeming to function in cahoots with the river and waterways. And it was said to be held on the fairgrounds designed by Herman Schwartzman. Nearly 10 million visitors attended the expo, and 37 countries participated in it. Mind you, this is 1876, and 37 countries and 10 million world participants, we're told, would partake in this fair, traveling by boat and horse and wagon. So this is very interesting. Even before this 1876 fair, we're told there was a fair called the Great Sanitary Fair. This sounds very enticing. How appealing. Honey, let's go to the sanitary fair. Okay, this fair, we're told, was the model.
Now, I will admit that when I was first watching this, the thought came into my mind, how much money did the people who had the patent rights after the reset for this sanitary napkin, how much money did they make? This company, maybe they're the ones that paid for the fair. $1 million worth of bandages fits in here somewhere.
For this great Centennial World's Fair that was held about 12 years later. We're told the sanitary fair was actually to raise money for medicine and bandages during the American Civil War. There we go. It raised $1 million for bandages. I mean, what were they doing? We're told they were sawing people's legs off in the Civil War.
That's gross, man.
$1 million. How exotic could these bandages have been?
They didn't even pick up the old legs.
Has ever heard of some crazy sanitary fair that was held in 1864? Here we go. Are you kidding me? We needed to build all this so that we could buy bandages? We needed to spend.
And or to celebrate that they had just invented a new kind of blood-soaking device. I don't know. Am I digging in too hard on that theory? I probably, because it's only about 2 minutes old. No, wait. It's at least 10 hours old.
$20 million to raise $1 million? Unbelievable. Will you just look at this city in 1864? 1864. What have the people been doing in America for the last 100 years? From my perspective, nothing needed to be done. How many of these towers and spires are still standing? And what of this? Once again, you need to tell me you need to have a fair to raise money for bandages, and you have a building like this? Again, this building alone is a $20 million building, requiring at least 20 years to construct. But no, we needed to build all this to raise $1 million so that we could saw people's legs off and bandage them. Look at this. Look at these people. What war? Who is fighting a war? Look at this place. We're told the President of the United States in this time period was born in a log cabin the size.
Look at that flag. It says USSC. You know, you don't see a lot of flags with something written on it. Not maybe in 1870 or 64.
Of an outhouse. And yet this is our city, looking like any ancient city in Europe. And this isn't even the fair. We're off topic. This is the precursor to the World's Fair that we're about to look at. 10 years later, in which they would build 200 buildings. First of all, this is fine. This is fine for a World's Fair, this sanitary fair. This is fine for a fair today. Actually nicer. But I digress. The idea for this first World's Fair in America is given credit to a John Campbell, a professor of mathematics, natural philosophy, astronomy, graduating from this Wabash College in Indiana. The idea, okay, right off the get-go, this crazy idea just coming from this guy. He suggested to the mayor at the time that there should be a United States centennial to celebrate the first 100 years. Naysayers argued that the project would not be able to find funding. It seems like they did all right with their sanitary fair. I don't know what the skepticism is. Other nations might not attend, they continued, and domestic exhibits would compare poorly to foreign ones. And pretty soon they found some supporters. The Philly Council, the Franklin Institute, and then they asked Congress for support, and the bill passed. Congress creates a board of finance to help raise money. They appoint John Welsh, this guy, a merchant and minister to England, and he had raised money for the Great Sanitary Fair in 1864. So he was the perfect candidate. Congress had to seek this man out. A true expert. And they set up stocks. I mean, this is just crazy, involving Congress and setting up boards. 10 million in stock, $10 a share. The board sold almost $2 million worth, equal to 38 million today worth of shares by 1873. Okay, so we have 3 years to go. They just made a couple $1 million. Philly contributed 1.5 million, and Pennsylvania gave 1 million. And then Congress appropriated another 1.5 million. So everyone's just throwing down now. All skepticism and frugality thrown out the window in this early time period. Just having money right around the time of the Civil War. And
doing exactly what their secret societies told them to get on board with. Friends help friends, going to make a little dollar, everybody's going to be happy. That's a wishing well that girl's walking there. She's going to walk right behind it. Just throw a penny in there.
who appropriate millions
There you go.
on a World's Fair that they're not even sure if anyone will show up to. And I beg to ask, even as wonderful as any fair that they create would be, where would you house the people? Without lodging, this fair is worthless. If you're traveling across the world, this isn't just a weekend trip. Let's say you traveled from anywhere in the world, managed to arrive at this fair. You're into this trip at least 2 weeks.
This freaks me out. If you haven't seen this, I know probably some of you have, but if you're still here, don't be worried about this girl who gets her foot stuck in the railroad track for this photo opportunity. There's no statute of limitations on this type of a crime.
Weeks. And I would say that's generous. I think with boat travel and horse and wagon travel, you're into this trip a month just to attend the fair for 3 or 4 days. You have to get lodging and feed for your horses, and it looks like they had no problem raising a bunch of money. Then the Fairmount Park Commission set aside 450 acres for the expo. Unbelievable. I mean, 450 acres is absolutely insane. They would not have needed more than 20 acres to have a killer fair. But 450 acres? What? It's not like these fairgoers are cattle and they need to graze. Again, we're talking about horse and wagon. You want to keep everything nice and compact. Who wants to walk around 450 acres? And here we go. To accommodate out-of-town visitors, temporary hotel.
When was the golden age over? The gilded age? I mean, these were the clothes that they found from the leftover golden age from. Fill in the blanks.
Hotels were constructed, temporary hotels. And the Pennsylvania Railroad ran special trains into the fair. Again, 1873, railroad jumps on board. This is temporary, and they're going to lay tracks, permanent railroad tracks, to the temporary fair. Yes. And a small hospital was built on the grounds. Philly passed an ordinance that authorized the mayor to appoint 500 men as guards for the expo. Now, that's kind of weird. It'd be like going to Disneyland and having 500 guards all around it. Among soldiers, local men were hired. Guards were required to live on site and were housed at 6 police stations strategically located throughout the expo. Why so many police stations and so many guards? Now again, you probably know what I want to say from my past videos and how I really feel about all this. But again, I'm approaching this innocently and naive.
1876, I know how they got those seal hats, those top hats. Slaves in the St. Paul and St. George Islands.
Structures. More than 200 buildings were constructed within the expo grounds, which were surrounded by a fence nearly 3 miles long. There were 5 main buildings in the expo. The main exhibition building, memorial hall, machinery hall, agricultural hall, and horticultural hall. Apart from these buildings, there were separate buildings for state, federal, foreign, corporate, and public comfort buildings. The Centennial Commission sponsored a design competition. Again, same narrative as usual. First round had to have details of construction cost and time prepared for the runoff on September of 1873. 10 designs were submitted and the winners were chosen. It was determined that none of them allowed enough time for construction and limited finances. The architecture of the exhibition mainly consisted of 2 types of buildings: traditional masonry monuments and buildings with a structural framework of iron and steel. So not being told about the whole temporary thing, really pushing these builders having such a short deadline to build their 200 buildings. They only have 3 years to build these 200 buildings.
Okay, so to let that soak in, we'll hear it again, but look at these uniforms.
And buildings with a structural framework of iron and steel. So no.
And it just strikes me about this time, when did John Philip Sousa, start writing, the grand marches, and even the marching band started dressing like military. That kind of stuff.
Being told about the whole temporary thing, really pushing these builders, having such a short deadline to build their 200 buildings. They only have 3 years to build these 200 buildings. And it consisted in the end of masonry, iron, and steel. The main exhibition building, designed by engineer Joseph Wilson and architect Henry Petit, a temporary structure, we're told. The main building was the largest building in the world, enclosing 21 acres. 21 acres. I was just saying 20 acres would be perfectly adequate to hold a fair. And here we're told they built this temporary building that is 21 acres large. How can I explain 21 acres? I think maybe a football stadium, a large one. And let's just look at it. Okay, here we go. 21 acre building here. 21 acres. And you can see, this is the short side. This is the absolutely short side of this long rectangle. Here we go. Just let's zoom in a little. Look at that. It almost continues for what seems like a mile. This flag here in arch seems to be the halfway point. And this, we're told, is temporary. And this is only one of 200 buildings. Why would you even build one more? How could you even build this one in 3 years, let alone 199 more? You have to landscape, lay railroad tracks, grade the roads. And what would I think now if I was truly innocent and naive? Could I just keep reading? Could I just dismiss this while looking at these primitive people? Could I accept any more? And mind you, this was not even the world's largest fair. This one was actually pretty small, and the building's less grand than other world's fairs. But this is 1876. Again, our president is born somewhere around here in a log cabin, and somehow this is thrown up in a few years for a temporary fair. And here's a look at the interior, and this is an actual photograph, a very early photograph, 1876, in this temporary 20-acre building. And there's nothing temporary about this. This is steel. These are load-bearing columns, and it actually looks like it has a concrete floor. Can you imagine flooring 20 interior acres with anything? So again, we see here a temporary structure, but then we're told it was constructed using prefabricated parts, wood and iron frame, resting on a substructure of 672 stone piers. Wrought iron roof trusses were supported by the columns of the superstructure. So again, let's go back to the interior. We are told these are stone columns. They just told us stone columns and iron roof. So somebody please tell me what is temporary about stone columns and an iron structure. 672 stone piers. The building took a mere 18 months to complete and cost $1.5 million. Unbelievable. Just chocked full of inconsistencies. Temporary, yet stone and iron till we go on. Here they tell us the flooring of the building was made of wooden planks that rested directly on the ground. 20 acres of wooden planks. 20 acres of flooring. And this looks unbelievable. If it is wood, not a seam just laying on dirt. 20 acres, we're talking about a forest's worth just on the floor, if this is the case. And it's just over the top. It's just heavy and way over the top. Stained glass, skylights, fountains that provided cooling, the largest everything for its time. And mind you, this is the first. It's a fair. It's not a castle, although it is. What are you gonna do in here? Again, I stress, you need some concessions, some amusements. What are you gonna do? This guy's gonna push this lady around. Right now, she just needs to use the restroom. Where could the restroom be here? Excuse me, sir. Sir? Again, I digress. Let's look at the Horticultural Hall. Built in 1 year, demolished in 1954. Here she is. Now, this wasn't even the same building. This is just another building. Remember, 200 buildings. We've just seen 2. All this was built in 18 months and demolished. Who would demolish this? And who would build this? And it looks like the Matrix is playing across the street. And let's imagine a Matrix scenario here. Again, we're told of a log cabin building people settling the Americas, and we are the following generation of this hard-working, struggling people. And today, while playing the role of the innocent and naive prick, I stumbled across this 1876 temporary Philadelphia fair. And this isn't even the main building. This is just the stupid horticultural hall. And let me just say, if I was building a city and I wanted to feed my people, the first thing I would erect is a greenhouse this size. But back to the fair. The Machinery Hall, again designed by a Joseph Wilson and Henry Petit. Machinery Hall was the second largest structure at the expo, located west of the main building, the 20-acre building, with a superstructure made of wood and glass, resting on a foundation of massive masonry. So there we go, massive masonry, glass, and this is just one of 200 buildings of this nature, most which would be torn down, with the exception of 4 or 5 of them. And what was the purpose of this machinery hall that took 6 months to construct, occupying 500,000 square feet? The machinery hall was to showcase state-of-the-art industrial technology that was being produced at the time. One of the major displays or attractions was the Centennial steam engine, as we can see here, that ran power to all machinery in the building as well as other parts of the World's Fair. So this is pre-power, or at least what we would call conventional power, and yet they were powering this whole fair with this steam engine. It was 45 feet tall, this thing that we're looking at, and weighed 650 tons and had 1 mile of overhead belts connecting to the machinery in the building. Unbelievable. I mean, again, this is a 6-month fair in 1876, horse and buggy, and we have a 650-ton, 45-foot tall engine. How is anyone moving any of these parts with a horse? But I completely digress once again. Let's have a look at the machinery hall. Why don't we have a better picture? Again, not even the large building, just a side building. And we can note how amused these visitors seem, even in this rendering, seeming absolutely bored. Honey, why did we come here? I'm not sure, dear. And next we arrive to my favorite, the Memorial Hall. In present times, this is called the Please Touch Museum, and we've looked at it before. The building is constructed of brick, glass, iron, and granite. It was the largest hall in the country with a 1.5-acre footprint, a 150-foot dome, and inspired by the Reichstag building in Berlin, this scene here. Yeah, more than just inspired. And the memorial hall should be enough. We just looked at 3 massive buildings, and then this, and nothing temporary about this. Just this one building. They would have blown through their budget and time frame of 18 months. Just this building. And I never even bothered looking at this World's Fair. This building is all it took for me to realize that the narrative was absolutely ridiculous. This and none of these 200 buildings were built for this 6-month fair. If it's not clear by now, after all these years, it may never be clear. How can anybody swallow this narrative? Brick, glass, and iron, 1876? This building is timeless. This isn't the kind of building you build in a few months, or a year, or even 10 years. We are told this building has been sitting here since 1876, and this building could sit here for another 1,000 years and probably need very little maintenance. And I think this video is getting a little long. Let's just have a look at a few other buildings. Here is the Women's Pavilion. This is the unbuilt Centennial Tower, a 1,000-foot tall tower conceived for the fair, but we're told it was never built. And what about everything else? No explanation? Don't mind the pyramids. And here the interior of the Horticultural Hall, complete with chandeliers and a very Moorish architectural feel. Plumbed fountains. Again, the president is born a couple states away in a small shanty-like log cabin. Not far away to the south, they were sawing people's limbs off and fighting each other with cannonballs and muskets. Here is their monorail, of course. Why wouldn't we have a monorail? This budget just seems to stretch on forever. May as well have a monorail, says Mr. Controller here. Here we can see the Statue of Liberty's arm on display and the largest knife and fork in the world. Remember in my last video I was talking about how everything 100 years ago was the largest everything, and was this just found in the basement of one of these 20-acre buildings. Well, I hope that wasn't too boring. I thank you for joining me this week.
I can't believe he said that. Well, I feel like that video is getting along. You know, we're closing in on 3 hours here. He makes a 25-minute video a week. I expect more from him. I just don't see how that's, you know, come on, John. There's so much out there. Get it on, man. Get it done. I mean, that was a good video. That was a good video. So anyway, Randy already prayed, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, Matt G. Thank you for sticking around. Rich Spellman, good to see you, man. All of the people that stopped in and out. I know nobody can stay in for 3 hours unless you just, you know, the Lord is moving in your life and it's time to put it on. But you, if that's you, then you sure got a lot to think about and pray about tonight. And that's what I'm going to do here on this Flat Earth Nation, thinking about it, because Mudflood was Armageddon. You can bet I'm never going to tell you anything else. Why would I? I'm trying to prove that I have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah.